In this video, I'm going to explore whether or not a filament printer is a good choice for Warhammer and tabletop gaming. We'll take a look at how a filament printer works, and we'll see how it compares to a resin printer as well before talking about which I prefer. And something else I want to do in this video is to see how well it can print some terrain. Welcome to TabletopReady, my name is Michael, and in this video I want to see how good a filament printer can be, and is there a place for it in Warhammer and tabletop gaming in general. With 3D printing becoming more accessible and affordable, it's being used more and more to enhance and personalise our hobbies, and I'm really interested to see what you can do with them and how the different types of printers work. The printer I'm using is the Neptune 4 Pro, which was kindly given to me by ELEGOO. They also sent me the Mars 4 Ultra Resin printer, which I'll also be talking about, and if you want to get anything you see me using in this video, they'll be in the description with links to where you can buy them. And if you enjoy my content here on TabletopReady and feel like you get any value from it, make sure to click on the like button and leave me a comment. I love reading them and hearing about your own hobby, and it really goes a long way to supporting and growing the channel. The first thing we need to do is to set up our printer, and at the same time we can talk about the different 3D printers and how they work. Here I'm setting up the Neptune 4 Pro, and I've got to be honest, this was more work to set up than the resin printer was, but I guess there are more moving parts. Luckily there was a video that came with the printer going through setup, including how to level the table, which made things so much easier, and the printer was put together and ready for printing in no time. For both filament printers and resin printers, they build up an object using layers, and it's just the way they do this that makes them different. FDM printers work by heating and melting plastic filament, which is then squeezed through a nozzle. The melted plastic is then deposited onto a build plate layer by layer to build up the shape of the object you're printing. For a resin printer, this creates the layers by setting resin using UV light, so it actually builds your objects upside down. The build plate lowers into the liquid resin where UV light will set a thin layer into the shape needed for that layer. The plate then raises up, ready to lower again to set the next layer until the object is finished printing. Now we know how the different types of printers work, let's talk about what it's like to use them and the advantages and disadvantages that they have over each other. The biggest difference is going to come from the resolution and the intricacy of details that can be printed. With a filament printer you get a lower resolution, which means you're going to see the layers in the objects, which can also affect how the smaller details look as well. An object printed using a resin printer has a higher resolution, which means it's more ideal for smaller, more intricate details, and there's no texture created from the different print layers. This does come at a cost though, as the FDM printer is so much more user friendly and you have very little mess to clean up as a result of the print. You can just simply remove the object from the build plate and you're done. A resin printer is a lot more involved, and not to mention the resin used can be toxic, so protective gear must be used. The printer itself needs cleaning, and the actual printing process can be temperamental at times as well. The resin also needs cleaning and curing once it's printed using a different setup. A resin printer is a lot quieter though, and I found it can print objects a lot quicker than an FDM printer, seeing as it sets layers instantaneously with UV light rather than waiting for the nozzle to work its way round to lay the plastic down. I think when it comes to deciding which printer is right for you, is deciding what you want out of it. And both printers do a really great job, and any disadvantages to either are necessary compromises to what you get out of it. Now we've looked at the differences, let's focus on the Neptune 4 Pro and see how easy it is to use. If you want to see a more in-depth video on the Mars 4 Ultra Resin printer, I do talk about it in my journey into 3D printing video, so go check it out. So here's the filament used by the printer, which comes in a nice big roll, and this is placed at the top ready to feed the filament into the nozzle. There's different kinds of filaments you can buy and even different colours. The filament is fed through the filament detector and then into the print head. And that's it, you're ready to print. Your printer does come with some files which are ready to print straight from the USB, which also has your guides, videos and software on it as well. For my first print I chose this little Buddha character, and after using the resin printer I was surprised at how long it was going to take. So for this little guy it's going to be close to 5 hours. Let's press confirm and wait for everything to heat up, And whilst this little Buddha character is printing, let's talk about the printer. The volume of the print area is 225 by 225mm or 8.85 inches, with a height of 265mm or 10.43 inches. It has pre-installed Clipper software, which means a faster print time over older models. It's got 121 points of auto bed leveling, along with advanced functions like input shaping to help achieve a smooth model surface and consistent extrusion. And I love that it's got a removable touchscreen pad and removable magnetic bed plate. What can I say? I already love how easy and straightforward it is to use this printer compared to a resin printer, which is a lot more involved and potentially hazardous. We're now a good way into the printing and everything's looking good, and I'm actually impressed with the detail this printer's achieved. And the actual printer itself is quiet. The thing that's noisy is all the fans blowing cold air to cool the plastic to set it in place. So this is another set of tray that I'm printing, and as you can hear, the printer is really loud. When the print was complete, it was really easy to remove from the build plate, which made me really happy as I still have nightmares from the resin printer. So here's the little Buddha that I printed off for the first test print, and it just worked straight away, like no issues, no problems. You do get a little extra bit of filament to do a couple of test prints, so this Buddha probably used about half of what you got. The one thing obviously that I was thinking about was how bad the layer lines were, because I knew that was an issue with an FDM printer or filament printer, but it's actually really not that bad. They're obviously there, but they don't cause any issues or they don't disrupt the shape of the object. There's a lot of nice little details as well that I'm really quite surprised about. In this last part of the video, I want to see what I could realistically use the filament printer for when it came to tabletop gaming. For me, one of the more inaccessible parts of tabletop gaming is getting a good amount and variety of scenery to make our games more immersive and varied. And let's be honest, we would rather invest more in our miniatures than scenery. As well, it can be hard to find exactly what we're after without making it ourselves anyway, which was the norm many years ago. This is where I think having a 3D printer can really add to our hobby, and with the help of War Scenery, who've also generously provided me with a selection of their STL files to use in this video, we can create some really stunning gaming environments. War Scenery create 3D printable terrain and miniatures that are compatible with some of the major tabletop games, including Warhammer and Star Wars Legion. And I love that a lot of these models can be printed without supports and also broken down into separate parts, which can be printed using smaller printers and means we can actually customise how our terrain is put together. I've linked their website in the description, and if you use Ready20 you can get a very generous 20% off as well. Something else that I really like is that the printer comes with its own slicing software, which again is super easy to use, and you can load up any external STL files and set them up for printing. Something else I was surprised by was how much filament you get in these reels, and I hardly used any for what I printed off for this video. Honestly, I would have printed more, but because of the time it does take for things to print, I would have been here for a couple of weeks before a reel ran out. Again, it's really easy to remove our prints from the plate, which I love, and we don't have to do any cleaning or curing. They're just ready to go. So here we've got a couple of the ruins printed off from the War Scenery STL files. Again, just like the Buddha, I'm just really impressed with it. Again, I was worried about the layer lines, but they're actually really minimal. Because I know there's some sort of lower end printers that they can be quite bad, but this has got a good resolution. And even like the door hinges as well came out really great. There was an issue with the print. I'll show you in that in a second. It will find sort of like these small details where you see by the door where this should be like a light, and you obviously got the skull, but that is because it's a really low resolution. But where it did do quite well, funnily enough, is like this sort of cable wire coming down here, and you do get sort of like this wired texture down here as well. But again, it will, especially sort of smooth details like this that are quite intricate, you are going to lose out on. But with the piece of terrain, I think terrain and scenery, they're going to be backdrops that are not going to be the focus on the board. So again, it's kind of like a computer game. You sort of have a low res background compared to sort of like your main characters. And where there was a bit of an issue was here under the windowsill, where obviously it hasn't had anything to sort of sit on when it's printing, so it's sort of drooped. And then obviously the top layer's over top, but obviously when it's able to grab hold, it's worked again. But it isn't a massive issue. You can just clean it up, and again, it's not going to be very noticeable. As I showed you, like, you just sort of put in the STL file, you slice it and pop into the printer, and it's ready to go. And this scenery was really good as well because there wasn't any support, so you had to print with it. You can just sort of like print onto the base straight away. But again, great size, a lot of detail in this scenery, and the printer managed it really well. The last thing I want to do is to see how an FDM printed piece of terrain looks all painted up. So I started with the undercoat using Mechanica Standard Grey, and then with a bit of dry brushing and weathering, we can get our scenery ready for the tabletop. So here I've got a piece of painted terrain, just because I wanted to see what it was like, all painted up. Again, just to see sort of how much those ley lines affect the look of the print. I mean, they are there, but again, they don't distract from the actual model. Again, you can see here that he had an issue with under the windowsill. I assume that these pieces will do a lot better printed with a resin printer, but again, they're great for the filament printer as well. It may be just a one-off, because obviously it hasn't happened with every windowsill. So all I've done here is I just undercoated with Mechanica Standard Grey, and then just sort of did base colours, a couple of washes over the metals, and then some dry brushes, just really simple. And the places where it is going to be really noticeable is obviously at the top here, where there is sort of a lot of contouring, because it can't obviously do a curved surface, it's just going to do sort of slices. But I did have an idea while I was painting this. So here, I've just tested out on an unpainted piece. I've used some basing texture paint. So this is Astro Granite that I've used here, and I've just applied it over the top and into the any sort of bullet holes or cracks, any damage into the wall, so that obviously when you paint that up, it's going to look even better. But as I say, personally, I really don't mind it. It's quite an interesting sort of effect. But when you place it on the tabletop, like with some miniatures, again, you're not going to be drawn to it. It's not going to be a focus. It's just going to be a really nice backdrop. But again, I'm just really impressed with the quality of print that the Neptune's been able to do. I can now say that I'm a huge fan of the Neptune 4 Pro and filament printers in general, and I did have my doubts at the start about how useful they can actually be, but seeing how well they did at printing this pretty detailed set of scenery, I'm now excited to see what else I can do with it. The last thing I want to do is say a massive thank you to all the amazing people who've made this tutorial possible with their continued support. It really means a lot. It allows me to get all the paints, brushes and miniatures I need to make these tutorials, so I can continue to help you get better at painting. And I especially want to thank Elias Martinez Lopez and Zux Nut, who have both recently become supporters to the channel. Thank you so much. And if you feel like you get any value and enjoy the content here on TabletopReady and want to help support the channel as well, you can become a channel member or join my Patreon, which gives you access to our Discord, regular updates, and you'll get to watch videos and tutorials early. We've now finished looking at our filament printer, and I hope I've been able to give you the confidence and knowledge to start your own adventure in 3D printing. I've got plenty of other tutorials on the channel which are aimed at helping you improve and get the most out of your hobby. I really do enjoy making these tutorials and I hope you find them useful. If you do, then please leave a like and let me know in the comments below. As well, make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out future content, and I'll see you in the next video.